Well, hello, Sally. Hello, Wayne. We've got the whole crew here
today.
Hello.
How are you, David?
Hi, Dave.
All right. So, as everybody knows, we started this the grand experiment last week. Wayne finally started experimenting with our cameras, and we had some fairly good results for the first time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we thought we'd give it another go. And I think it helped us, rethink the show a bit. Mm-hmm. So I want to explain to somebody how we're shaking up the format a little right now. And that is, we've been experimenting with the format. And last week we did the video simulcast over the net. But we also did something interesting. During the course of doing the radio broadcast, I actually showed you how I got my information and how I collected it during the week and how we do our stories. And it was called Pocket. So what we did after the show was, and before we released the video version of the show, I went in and I actually recorded a demo on how Pocket is being used. Mm-hmm. And I did it really quickly just to see if this is something that people would be interested in. And oddly enough, we got a lot of feedback online about the show. People thought it was exciting actually to see the players and actually get to see the people in the studio, that type of thing, and see the studio working. But at the same time, because people always liked when we used to do the Skype chats. Yes. And I put up the Skype chats because I had recorded them, and people liked the idea that we were doing that live also. So, so this week we're taking it one step further. So we hope right now, as you're listening, it's a simultaneous broadcast. We'll be broadcasting and we're netcasting. And the radio broadcast right now is going to be about a half hour. And the netcast will continue on with those things that we think require visuals. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, when I walk down the streets, people say to me, sometimes I'm talking about something and they'd like to see it. They don't understand it. They'd like to sort of see what it looks like.
Exactly.
So sometimes we just can't talk about it. So we'll actually show the tech. So probably, for example, today on the net portion of the show, I think what you'll see right after the actual radio broadcast ends, you'll see how I've talked about the cloud. And I want to show you how the cloud works in actually storing your files in the cloud. And the reason, and I think you'll really appreciate this, the reason I wanted to do this was actually a conversation I had on the street. And, we've talked about this many times. When I walk down the street in our communities and people recognize that I'm the guy that talks about tech, they always ask questions. And I tried the best I can to answer some of the questions. And you get that all the time.
I get it all
Wayne,
the time, yes.
And for those of you who know Wayne, he's sort of, Mr. Technology, Mr. History of tech and audio and radio stations and all that.
And the poor guy, when something breaks, we all act like it's his fault because we're so frustrated.
That's a conversation we need to have right now on the radio. Are you listening, my other half?
There you go.
Right now. Are you listening? Just because the TV did turn on when you pushed the button and you didn't check the batteries in the remote, it's not my fault.
That's right. It was the batteries.
It was the batteries.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about this particular conversation, and the reason I picked the cloud, and you'll just bear with me for a little bit, and if I can get there. So I'm walking the dog this morning, and somebody came over to me and said, we were talking. He was asking me what we were going to talk about on the show, and I told him that now he could watch the show on video, and I'd be sending out the address to everybody on the show, and so he can, see how we do things. And he goes, I have to be honest with you. And this is a man, I think he's just slightly younger than I am. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, honestly, I'm so afraid of bleeping that computer when I touch it that I'm really terrified of using a computer. And I said, what are you terrified about? And I know, people of a certain age group where they were all past the learning stage of learning how to do things, and they had to sort of backtrack and try to pick it up. There's a certain fear of computers. And, what I tried to explain to him is as long as you know a few things, right, like backing up your files or how to back up your files.
Yes.
It's not like machinery. It's not going to blow up on you. It's not even like your stove. If you leave the gas on and then you light a match in the house and the whole house goes on. The only thing that could happen if you use the computer wrong is you might lose your files.
Yes.
Or, chances are you can't even damage the computer really unless you spill water on it.
Yeah.
But it's not the type of thing where you have to have this fear. And I think if we could just pull the fear out, that people would take chances and they would learn and they would sort of get the basic precepts.
I'll tell you.
Tell the story, Sally, about your father.
My dad, he didn't want to have anything to do with a computer. He didn't really understand its relevancy in our lives. But then one day we were giving him a check for something. I don't even remember what it was all about, and it was printed on the computer. And he found that to be so cool that we could print our personal checks from a computer that he said, okay, set me up. I want to print my checks like that. But that's all I'm going to do on the computer. Well, once the door was open to him, he became such an incredible techie. And he was the go-to guy in his neighborhood for all his friends.
At age 80.
Yeah. And he would wrench all their computers and guide them through everything. He became a real mega techie.
Because he found the one thing he wanted to do and he needed to do.
That's right. And like you just said, David, once you pull that veil away and you say, oh my goodness, look at what's available to me and what I can do now.
He made all his own greeting cards.
Oh,
he did all kinds of things.
Yes.
once he got past printing checks, that was his first, that was the impetus for it all.
The story goes that the reason it was so widely accepted, computers in the first place, actually is because email was the one program that people had to learn in order to communicate, and people took to it. And once you learn the basics of how one thing operates, you can get over that learning curve.
Let me ask you something. Was AOL the first email program, or was there one before that? I can't remember. Because, of course, Vero Beach is very associated with AOL, with the founder and all that here in town.
Case.
Yeah, they're all, living in Vero. And you're right, that email.
Steve Case.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they all, started with, like you said, email.
That's right.
I mean, there were, boards, bulletin boards and all that beforehand. But I think you're right that email really got everything going.
That was the program that did it. And it led us to believe, those of us who got into technology early, realized that if we could find the one utility out of computers that is something that you wanted to do and you needed to do, that would be the one that got you into computers. When I was younger, I guess. I was on, back in the early 80s, I was on CompuServe.
Yes.
And that was really my entry. And this is before MS-DOS computers.
Yeah.
We were on CPM computers. I think I had a K-Pro 2, I believe it was. And
is it in the Smithsonian now?
Actually, interesting. It is in perfect condition in my attic.
Oh. Well,
right. It's perfect. It's still. I have the programs. I have the discs. I have everything.
That's cool. It's going to be a collector's item
and
for sure.
I'm definitely going to donate it at a certain point to maybe the Vero Beach Museum.
That's right. So might be good. Yeah.
But that was the one time when I started. There were two things that happened. One is I was able to send a message, and the other thing was that I was able to chat. To people long distances.
Yes.
And in my mind, that it'll remind you all of, it replaced the ham radio for me.
Oh, my. You're not an amateur radio operator, are you?
I was when I was very young.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, when I was very young.
You got your license then, huh?
I did. I got it at a very young age.
Very good.
I think it was a Boy Scout thing, too.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
right. Yeah.
Quickly, in the early days when you would pick your handle for your email, you would enter it in AOL, how that one functioned, and they'd tell you if it was taken or they'd give it to you. Those were the two. That was what your choices. So my brother was trying to help my dad set his up, and he loved his dog. His dog was the love of his life, named Shooter. So he tried Shooter, that was taken. He tried Shooter, dog, taken. All these different variations of Shooter. Well, then my brother puts in Dog Shoot, and it says that's it. And my dad's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be Dog Shoot.
And
but he was dog shoot
up until the day he died.
Yeah, he was dog shoot. And it was really a homage to how much he loved his dog Shooter, though.
Yeah, I remember picking out the name. I think it was, for me, it was a cat, I think. Anyway, maybe we should go to a break now, and we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll talk about how you can actually watch the broadcast.
Yep. Good.
If you wonder what to do, we got
All right.
Hey everyone, I thought I'd break in here while the stations were running their local adverts to tell you a few things. If you're interested in appearing on Yak About Tech and have an interesting take on tech, get in touch with us at yakabouttech@gmail.com. And of course, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, both Yak About Tech. So if you don't know the spelling, it's YAKABOUTTECH. So that's yakabouttech@gmail.com. And of course, on Twitter, Yak About Tech. And also our Facebook page, Yak About Tech. Also, you'll find us on Facebook at Planet Vero. And we are back with Sally and Wayne Dillon in our second experimental show of our season. So I thought I'd tell you a little more about it. So right now you're listening on the radio, obviously, probably over Waxy. And
Actually, it's planetvero.com.
planetvero.com.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the site. Yeah.
If you're
Wax-
you're listening to Waxy on terrestrial radio, though,
Right.
107.9 FM and 1370 AM, or on iHeart, you can get it on planetvero.com.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just clarifying for my
Yeah,
engineer
exactly.
over there.
So let's have the conversation where I think people will be able to find the video, because they'll find, right now they can find the video in several places, but they may find different versions of the video
Yes. Right.
too. So what we've been experimenting last week, as some of you know, I put up the first of our videos and inserted a how-to, and I put it up on YouTube. And there's a Yak About Tech channel. Just do a search. It's Yak About Tech, and you'll see the videos. I also have it on our site called yakirgroup.com and yakabouttech.com. And you can find it, again, if you go to our Facebook. But we also have it on, we're going to have a version on Planet Vero.
Yeah, and it's up on YouTube, actually, on our channel for planetvero.com. And, of course, we bring that back, and it's actually on our home or index page. So you'll see the video right there. I mean, if you dial in planetvero.com, just click on it, and it starts right up.
So you can't miss us.
Right.
All right. So to tell everybody where we are at this stage, what they may be seeing at this point are different versions
Yes.
of the show,
Right.
because we haven't put everything together.
Right.
We're still experimenting. I'm going back after the show and experimenting with inserting how-tos, and you're actually taking care of the
I'm
show
looking
itself.
more, yes, and more the technology behind, just to see how it looks, because we're combining audio with video. Our studio was built for audio. Now, how do I convert it into a nice video studio too at the same time? So
That's right. So then the one thing I want to tell you, if you actually go to the Yak About Tech to watch it, let's say you're listening to the show right this second, and the show is going to come to an end in about 15 minutes, that type of thing. And you'll say, oh, I want to see David explain the cloud. Well, you'll go, and what you'll see when you get there to Yak About Tech on YouTube or at yakirgroup.com is you'll start the video, but it'll start from the beginning of the show. So you can fast forward it. You can pull the timeline to where, about a half hour in, and then right about the center of the show, you'll see sort of some inserted videos of, in this case, I'm going to use, when we talk about the cloud, I'm going to show you how to move all your files to Dropbox and how it works. And it's really easy. And that's because a lot of people are so afraid of losing their information. And it goes back to that conversation that I had this morning with the gentleman in the neighborhood. I just want to explain to him that when he has safely put something away someplace outside his computer, and I'm a big believer of the cloud. I think it's safer probably than
Think of it as a safety deposit box.
Yeah, that's how I do think about it, and I think it's it's look, nothing is totally safe.
right.
in this day and age, and somebody can break in. I'm not sure anybody wants our particular files.
The thing is, David, what's so mind-boggling is that all of that storage does take some hardware, and the things that people are storing are so immense, and a lot of them not even necessarily ever useful to them again. They just put everything up there.
That's right.
That's kind of mind-blowing how much stuff is being stored.
It's interesting you say that because I'm a fairly organized person. I'm not the greatest organized person, but compared to most people, I think I do a good job. Every once in a while, I go through this whole process. I explain to people that every year I rebuild my computers because, just the way they get dusty on the outside, the hard drives and the programs spit out a lot of garbage on your drives and things like that. And it's not an easy task. Sometimes it can take about a day and a half to really get a computer rebuilt. But when I was looking in my Dropbox folders now that they've increased my storage to 1 terabyte. And I don't even remember why I put files in there, but they go back years now. I think what happened was, as I went from computer to computer to computer, and in my business you do it quite often. As what people don't realize, the same guy who I think I told you last week had a 10-year-old computer, and he goes, it's slow. And you don't realize that as the programs become more advanced, it needs more power. The programs themselves need more power. And if it doesn't have enough power, they run really slow. So in our business, we're constantly upgrading our computers. In the process, we have to move our information and move our information and move our information and move our information constantly. And in the process, you're always afraid. I
don't want to miss something.
I put everything back in the old days on a hard drive, then a CD, and then a DVD, and that type of thing.
Boy,
and now,
CDs are going by the wayside fast.
oh yeah, gone.
Yeah, they
It's funny. CDs are going away. LPs are coming back.
Yes, vinyl.
Vinyl's coming back.
Big time.
Right.
Yeah.
And, computers were supposed to end the, paper age, paper trail, and instead I think it compounded it.
Yeah, it did.
I have something. It's another conversation that we probably should have at a certain time. I find that in my particular world, my paper is down to almost nothing.
Oh, is it? That's good.
I don't have paper. Sometimes, this is the extent of what I print up, and most of the time I'll just use the, like I explained last week, the iPad. But sometimes if I'm out, I'll print a quick copy. But there's no paper in my house. Maybe I have a file cabinet from the old tax returns from the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That for some reason I'm keeping. That type of thing.
Well, you're lucky. Around here, we actually, as an office, use more paper than we did before the computer age, I think.
And what do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of things that have to be printed out. The logs, things like that.
Right.
Well, it let me just say this. It all could be automated if we really dedicated our time and effort to doing it. But you know what? That's another learning curve.
Oh, please. No more.
All right. So I found a few things, as I always do, on Pocket this week, things I have been looking at. And I thought I'd pick a few of them out to talk about. Do you drink coffee? You drink
yes.
coffee, right?
Yep.
Coffee lover. You ever run out of coffee?
Sometimes.
Okay. So coffee is coffee. You either love it or you hate it. And if you're like most people, your feelings are probably skewed toward fondness. So what we have here now is the fresh coffee jar, which has sensors built into it. And you put your coffee, it holds something like 16 ounces of coffee beans at any given time. And it Bluetooths to your connected device. And when it feels you're running too low, it makes arrangements to have the coffee redelivered to your door. So you never have to think about running out of coffee anymore. And we do run out of coffee.
Yeah.
It happens.
That's applicable to so many things. Baby diapers, different things like that. Dog food.
If you have the container and the container you can put a sensor in, then you can do anything.
Let me ask you something, Dave. Wasn't there discussion just a few years ago about a refrigerator that would be monitoring all of that?
They do it. They have it.
They
right
do
now.
have that?
They do. Wow. And, it's one of those things. They came out with a few models. And, the technology changes. So originally the models were you would have to scan everything you put in.
Oh,
So
I
we'd
see.
use the
Yeah.
bar scanner.
Bar scanner,
that
yeah.
type of thing.
Mhm.
And you would scan it, put it in, and then I'm not sure if it was sensor based.
Yeah.
Now we have the capability of it actually knowing what
Yeah.
you're just putting in the refrigerator
Yeah.
and when you take it out. And
Mhm.
there are sensors that weigh the shelves. And
That makes sense.
You know who does bars? Not bars. The bars
Liquor. For
in
liquor.
in the
yeah.
hotels.
Oh,
in the
hotels. Right, yes. Yeah,
It
you're right.
knows what
The-
you've taken
yeah.
out and sends it right through the
it-
hotel computer system
Yeah.
to
To Bill.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I think these things. I only picked out the coffee jar
That's
because
interesting,
we all
yeah.
drink. Okay, so I have another one here. So Domino's, and this is really if you're truly, truly lazy, right? If making a phone call is too much work to order a pizza, or going to a website and typing in is too much, right? All you have to do is tweet a picture of a pizza to Domino's,
Gee.
On what you want?
right?
Oh, my goodness.
And they will deliver it to you.
Wow.
So here's how it works. You go to a Domino's and register your Twitter handle along with a special pizza order that you frequently get. You'll also have to give Domino's your credit card information and address, of course, so they can charge you for the pizza and deliver it properly to your house. And after completing those steps, you'll be able to tweet pizza emoji at Domino's official Twitter account, and they will deliver you some pizza.
Well, I give them credit. That's a pretty creative marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting having come out of the agency world, and of course you guys being in the agency world. It was always that creative, that whole strategy.
Yeah.
You were always on the line with your clients, right, to come up with
A new idea.
A new idea.
Yep.
Once technology hit,
Mm-hmm.
then there was a free for all. I remember back in the Blue Marble days, and this was at the beginning. I mean, every time we met with a client back then it was the big clients. It was Microsoft and Procter and Gamble and General Motors and Ford and those things. They'd walk in, you'd go into the meetings. What can technology do for us next? And you're always looking at the tech. You were looking at the web, and I don't know if I ever discussed one of our really great.
We're just about out
How
of
did that happen? All right. Hey guys, we're going to
Yeah.
finish this discussion. Now remember, we're going to be online right now. You can continue. You'll see us additionally at yakirgroup.com, or if you're more familiar with YouTube, just search out Yak About Tech on YouTube, and you'll see this show and the continuation of the show where we'll take you into the cloud and we'll talk about Dropbox. All right, everybody. Thanks, Sally.
you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Great show.
Remember, Twitter us,
Yep.
and we'll see you next week.